It's Monday, March 2nd, and time for your Barbados Today Morning News Update. CARICOM ramps up its response to COVID-19, better known as the coronavirus, as the region records its first cases. An expanded Bureau of Heads of Government is now in place, tasked with organizing resources with its local, regional and international partners in order to contain and manage the virus. CARICOM Chairman Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley made the announcement following a special meeting with stakeholders at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre yesterday.
A regional protocol that establishes minimum standards as to what we expect from the cruise industry, what we expect from our own member states. The extent to which one member state may differ from another will be collated and supplied to the cruise industry by no later than Tuesday evening by CARFA. CARFA, for those who don't know, is the Caribbean Public Health Agency. And similarly, we've created a subcommittee of the Bureau in order to be able to start the discussions with our regional and international partners. And against that background, we have asked both PAHO and CARFA to help us in the identification of the gaps that exist within our respective member states, so that as we move to marshal resources, we will be in a position to help. We recognize that instead of every country having the same level, it may well be the identification of a few countries within the region because of what is involved.
Prime Minister Mottley also revealed that Barbados was already taking steps to boost its capacity and has identified the old naval base at Harrison's Point, St. Lucie.
Be looking there to use both for quarantine and isolation. Luckily, we have a number of buildings that will allow us to be able to deal with quarantining. And previously, when it was used as the temporary prison, there was also a temporary hospital provided there. So we have a building that we will have to bring back into shape. It's a couple weeks work to do all of it, but luckily the engineering of the walls and the flat roofs. In fact, let me say that whether it is public health outbreak, whether it is hurricane or other natural or man-made disaster, I am now satisfied that each country in the region needs some kind of facility that allows us to be able to retreat in times of emergency in order to be able to sustain the state or to allow the state to contain a situation that is otherwise uncontainable.
The Pan American Health Organization reported that the Dominican Republic had recorded 3 cases of the coronavirus, St. Martin 2 and 1 in St. Bart's, all related to the outbreak in Italy. At yesterday's special meeting, stakeholders focused on the region's travel partners, primarily those in the cruise industry. A March 13 meeting is scheduled for officials in the airline industry. Chief Executive Officer of Carnival Corporation, Arnold Donald, has committed to work with the Caribbean and assured that industry officials have a number of protocols in place.
And so these protocols that we have in place tend to serve us well. And of course, we fine-tune them, as we have in this case, for the specific disease or illness situation that arises, and in this case is COVID-19. I think for us, it was important to be here, to participate, to encourage everyone to align with the guidance and procedures from the World Health Organization and other global medical experts, so we have a common basis for which we can operate and continue to provide opportunities for the economies while keeping our crew, our guests, and the locals that we come in contact with as we bring our guests to places here throughout the Caribbean healthy and safe.
Meantime, Executive Director of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. Joyce St. John, is pleased with the region's collaboration on the public health issue.
The whole mission is to minimize death and illness. And I really appreciate the agreements that were reached, especially with the cruise industry. We have focused quite a bit on border control, and there is a very important role that the cruise industry has to play in helping us with border control while we remain open for tourism business, but there is also the need to pull back in and also focus on preparing for importation and transmission. And you know that CARFA raised the risk level, and that was before we had cases in the non-English speaking Caribbean, but there are cases in the Caribbean.
In other news, St. Thomas began its leg of regathering celebrations with a multi-faith service last evening. Member of Parliament Cynthia Ford, addressing the service held at the Leicester Vaughan Secondary School, used the occasion to urge residents to help the island's young people.
Nurture someone. Hold on to a child and guide that child along the right path. We can no longer say, it is not my business, I have my gates closed. We can no longer say, "He mother and he father indifferent, so lay stand there." You never can tell the extent that that child can go when you intervene. How can we say we love God whom we cannot see, but hate the human beings who are around us whom we can see? It can't work. Otherwise, the spirituality is not working for us. And therefore, nurture a child, mentor a child, feed a child, help to direct a parent or guardian who knows no better. Help us to save our young men and women who are sometimes going down the wrong path.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Roots Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume reveler, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
Regional news now. It's election day in Guyana. Over 600,000 registered voters are heading to the polls to cast their ballots at 2,339 polling stations across the country. The elections appear to be a straight fight between 74-year-old David Granger's A Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change, and the People's Progressive Party, whose presidential candidate is 39-year-old Ufranali. Final election results are not expected before Friday. And on the international scene, bans on big gatherings and strict travel restrictions were enforced in Europe, the Middle East, and the Americas as cases of the new coronavirus spread around the world. More in this Reuters TV report.
Fears of a pandemic rose on Saturday as coronavirus cases spread to new countries and death tolls jumped. Europe's worst outbreak remains in Italy, with officials saying several more people died on Saturday, bringing the country's total number of fatalities to at least 21. Also on Saturday, Qatar reported its first case of the coronavirus, a man who had recently returned from Iran. The Islamic Republic is the Gulf's most affected country, with authorities announcing over 40 dead, the highest number of deaths outside of China. Saudi Arabia is currently the only state in the region that has not reported any coronavirus cases. The outbreak has sent governments around the globe into frenzied attempts to contain the spread, whether they have cases or not. Australia said on Saturday it would deny entry to all foreign nationals travelling from Iran. Russia temporarily barred Iranians from entering the country and said it would also restrict entry to South Koreans.
And that's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.